This ship holds nearly 7,000 passengers, has a 3-story promenade with LED ceilings, and cost $1.3 billion to build. And it's 30 to 50% cheaper than other megaships from other mainstream cruise lines. MSC copied the blueprint with the venues, the scale, and the spectacle, but they're charging significantly less for it. Which raises the obvious question, are you getting a deal or are you just paying less for, well, less? Well, let's find out. The American cruise market has long been dominated by a small group of companies that has spent decades refining what a mainstream cruise should feel like. And MSC is betting that they can offer the same product for significantly less. The strategy is straightforward. Build a ship that looks and feels like what Americans already know, with the promenade and the specialty dining and, of course, the water slides. And price it at a discount that's impossible to ignore. On paper, this ship checks every box. It holds nearly 7,000 passengers, has venues designed to mirror Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, and Carnival, and costs substantially less to book. But that pricing gap raises the real question. Is MSC delivering genuine value by doing things more efficiently? Or are there compromises built into the experience that explain why it costs less? Because it's one thing to copy the blueprint, but it's another thing entirely to execute it in a way that justifies the savings without feeling like you're getting less for your money. That's what I wanted to understand, so I set out to spend a week here on the MSC World America, a ship that represents the biggest bet MSC has ever made on winning over American cruisers. Oh, and if we haven't met yet, I'm Evan from Family at Sea. If this is your first time watching my channel, I'm glad you're here. And if you've been here a while, you already know how much I appreciate you. If you're ready, I am. Let's go. The MSC World America is based at Port Miami, operating out of Terminal AA, which is a brand new facility that feels like the kind of space cruise line should have been building all along. It's open and modern and designed to move people through efficiently without feeling industrial. And it worked. We dropped our bags with a luggage porter, cleared security using their advanced facial recognition scanners, and boarded the ship in under 30 minutes. As you take your first steps on board directly into the World Galleria, you're struck by the scale and the beauty of the design that you see right here. The space rises 3 decks overhead, and it's wrapped in bars, restaurants, and a glowing LED ceiling that pulls your attention upward. Music is already playing as people flow through the space, and the cruise feels fully switched on from that very first moment. Reminded me of Royal Caribbean's promenade concept, but executed with a completely different design language. For Royal leans bright and open, MSC went with chrome accents and a more upscale look. The lighting is moody, the LED ceiling cycles through different scenes, and the whole space feels like Vegas crossed with a luxury mall, with a vibe that is loud and unapologetically designed to impress. But what struck me was how differently MSC approaches the same concept. The layout is denser and more layered than Royal's promenade, and there's more visual stimulation packed into the space, with more signage, more venues stacked vertically, and more happening all around you. It creates energy, but it also creates a different kind of experience. American cruise lines tend to build around openness in sightlines where you can stand in one spot and understand all that's going on around you. But MSC's approach feels more European, with spaces that unfold as you explore them rather than revealing themselves all at once. Within the first hour, it was clear that while this ship had a familiar blueprint, it wasn't a simple copy and paste job, and the real question was whether it would still feel comfortable once the novelty wore off. We stayed in cabin 19008, which is a Yacht Club deluxe suite at the forward of deck 19. In fact, I'm right here on the balcony of the room as we speak. The space has felt surprisingly well thought out. The bedroom and sitting area are separated by a decorative room divider, which creates a sense of 2 distinct spaces without the walls closing things in. The sitting area has a couch that converts into a bed where our kids sleep at night, along with a table and enough room to actually use the space rather than just walk past it to get to the bed. Storage is generous with 2 closet units, one that has hanging space and another that's more a combination of shelves and drawers that provides more than enough room to handle a week's worth of clothes for our family of 4 without everything feeling cramped or stacked on top of each other. The bathroom is spacious by cruise ship standards with a single sink and a large mirror and a large walk-in shower that has both a rainfall head as well as a wand with water pressure that was solid, though if I'm honest, the temperature does fluctuate periodically. The balcony that I'm on now is narrow but functional with 2 chairs and an end table and just enough room to sit outside without feeling like you're perched on a ledge. And overall, the cabin is comfortable, modern, and it feels like MSC understood what a suite should deliver. But that raises a more important question. How much does it actually cost to cruise on the World America, and where are the hideouts trading? Oh gosh. Where are the trade-offs hiding? When you look at pricing for the World America, MSC's strategy becomes crystal clear. Interior cabins start at just $197 per night for 2 people. Ocean views begin at $260, balconies at $293, and Aria suites at $423 per night on the low end. And for a ship of this size and scale, those numbers are hard to ignore. Now, we stayed in the Yacht Club, which starts at $943 per night, which definitely sounds expensive, but this includes a premium drink package, 24/7 butler and concierge service, access to the amazing Topsail Lounge, dedicated restaurants like the Yacht Club restaurant and La Brasserie, a private pool deck, thermal spa access, reserved theater seating, priority embarkation and debarkation, and 2 Wi-Fi devices per person. I feel like I just did the 12 Days of Christmas. And a partridge and a pear tree. And look, guys, we've sailed in a suite on every single cruise line that offers a product like this, and the Yacht Club is hands down the best of them all. And no, they are definitely not paying me to say that. The fact that you can get a suite in the Yacht Club here for less than the cost of a standard balcony on the Icon of the Seas is honestly absurd. The Yacht Club is not the focus of this review because I know many of you watching will not be staying in the Yacht Club, and that's totally fine. But the real question is whether this ship works for the majority of passengers who are paying significantly less. Because here's the reality. MSC is undercutting Royal Caribbean and Norwegian and other mainstream cruise lines by 30 to 50% across nearly every cabin category. Now, that price gap is substantial and is designed to get people on board who might otherwise book with a more familiar cruise line. But the question is, what happens once you're living on the ship for a week? Does it feel like a genuine value, or are you simply getting what you pay for? And figuring that out ahead of time is harder than it looks because cruise pricing changes constantly, and it's easy to compare the wrong things. One sailing looks like a steal, another looks overpriced, and suddenly you're booking based on a number without understanding what's actually included or how the ship compares. And that's exactly why we Book Through Cruises it. Instead of guessing, you're working with people who actually understand the ships, the pricing patterns, and how different cabins change the onboard experience. They've saved us thousands over the years, helped us land better cabins, and kept us from making choices we would have regretted later. Which is more than I can say for Frank, who once told me, "Evan, I already found the best price online." Frank, you also thought buying airline tickets the day before your flight was a strategic move. With their low price guarantee and people who actually care, Cruises It makes booking simpler, cheaper, and a whole lot less stressful. So click the link in the description below or call the number on the screen and tell them Evan from Family at Sea sent you. You'll be glad you did. After a few days on board, you start to understand how this ship handles its scale. Instead of funneling everyone toward 1 or 2 central spaces, MSC spreads activity across multiple zones and lets people choose where to go. The World Promenade sits at the aft of the ship with shops, bars, and the jaw drop slide spiraling down through a massive shark sculpture. The lanai at the far aft becomes a popular spot with its breathtaking wake views and variety of parties and evenings, including the palm tree light shows and the silent disco. The pool decks like this one are spread across multiple zones. The Mar Azul pool is the main pool, and it's marketed as the largest pool on a cruise ship in the world, though it's really 2 separate pools with ankle-high water connecting them so they can call it a single pool. The Botanic Garden pool is the enclosed Solaria pool, which is a popular spot, especially when the weather takes a turn. The Zen pools, which is where I am right now, are the adults only, and they're quieter. There's a variety of hot tubs spread all across the ship. The World Galleria remains at the heart of the ship, but the traffic here can feel overwhelming at times in the evenings if you're not looking for energy. The thermal pool is one of the most impressive at sea with its large whirlpool, sauna, steam room, and relaxation areas. And the loft doubles as a comedy club and piano bar, and it's small and intimate, and it fills up quickly if you're not there early, so you may not have a view of the stage thanks to columns that separate the two sides. And then there's the harbor, which you can see right up here. And this sits at the top of the ship with water slides, the cliffhanger swings that hang passengers over the ocean, and the sportsplex with bumper cars, roller skating, soccer, and basketball. And it's all designed for families and delivers exactly what it promises. The ship covers a lot of ground and most spaces work. The question is whether spreading activity across multiple zones helps or hurts the experience. And that depends entirely on whether you prefer a ship that pulls you toward strong focal points or one that scatters the options and lets you decide. MSC has made some big improvements to their main dining room experience on the Road America compared to their earlier ships, both in terms of food and service. Provides an experience that's far more comparable to what you'll get on other mainstream cruise lines, instead of feeling like it's an area of compromise in exchange for the lower price. Beyond the main dining rooms, the ship has 2 separate buffet spaces, which is more necessity than luxury at this scale. Even with the split, both buffets still get crowded during peak times, and the food itself is fine but unremarkable. Having 2 locations helps manage the flow, but it doesn't change the reality that the buffet experience here feels functional rather than a highlight. But specialty dining is where things get more interesting. Butcher's Cut might just be the best steakhouse at sea. Their Wagyu strip loin carries a $30 upcharge, but it is worth every penny. It's the best steak I've ever had on any cruise ship. Italy delivers strong Italian fare with fresh pasta in an atmosphere that feels more intentional than most specialty venues. Kaido offers solid sushi and teppanyaki if you're looking for something Japanese, and Ola Tacos has become our go-to lunch spot at least once on every MSC ship because it's far better than it needs to be for what you're paying. And then there's the All-Star Sports Bar in the World Promenade with casual bar food for an upcharge, plus a large wraparound bar and self-service beer taps, making this a great spot to catch a game with its TVs all over the venue. It's also worth a quick mention here for Yacht Club guests. You have exclusive venues like the Yacht Club Restaurant, La Brasserie, which is the tapas venue, as well as the Yacht Club Grill up on the pool deck. And each of these have menus that rotate in service that's more attentive than you'll find elsewhere on the ship. Bars are spread throughout the ship, and you're never far from a drink. Masters of the Sea feels like an actual Irish pub. The Gin Project offers an extensive gin selection with a menu that's so extensive it's nearly overwhelming. Dolce Vita in the World Galleria is a great spot to catch live music and a drink, though it does get loud in the evenings. Elixir serves an impressive variety of craft cocktails, and Fizz is perhaps the best champagne bar I've found on any cruise ship. And of course, there's a variety of different pool bars spread across the pool decks. The Topsail Lounge, exclusive to Yacht Club guests, offers comfortable seating and forward-facing ocean views that honestly make it one of the nicest spaces I've seen on any cruise ship for those that have access. And then there's the Coffee Emporium, which makes excellent coffee that's included on the premium drink package, and Sweet Temptation sells desserts and treats at an upcharge. The food and drink options on the Road America cover a lot of ground, and for the most part, they deliver far better than you'd expect on a budget cruise line. Entertainment made a huge leap forward on the World America compared to their older ships. The World Theater, where I am now, handles the standard production shows and headliner acts, and while it's a great venue, it's not where the best entertainment happens. The Panorama Lounge at the aft of Deck 7 is the clear standout. During the day, the floor-to-ceiling windows offer some of the best ocean views on the ship, and at night, screens cover the windows, and it transforms into one of the most impressive venues at sea. The production quality is exceptional, and shows like Cinesonic and Queen Symphonic are among the best we've seen on any cruise ship. The Speakeasy is technically a secret venue that is invite only, though at this point it's well known by nearly everybody. The live music there is excellent, and the drink menu goes beyond what you'll find at other bars on the ship. The downside here is that drinks aren't covered under the premium drink package, so everything there is an upcharge. But across the ship, live music shows up in different forms. There's the palm tree light shows and flash mobs that break out on the World Promenade, acoustic acts that perform in quieter corners, and live bands that play in various venues, and of course the dueling pianos fill the loft. None of it feels forced, and the variety keeps things from getting repetitive. MSC clearly invested in entertainment on the World America, and it shows. And if I'm honest, this is the first MSC ship where I find myself touting the entertainment as incredible instead of apologizing for it as if it's acceptable because of their budget pricing. Service on the World America is where the European approach becomes the most visible. Crew members are friendly and professional, but the service style leans more formal than what you'd find on other mainstream cruise lines. It's definitely not stiff, but it's also not the over-the-top enthusiasm you'll find on the American cruise lines that train their crews to deliver. And whether that works for you really depends on what you're looking for. With that said, in the yacht club where I am right now, service isn't in an entirely different league. The crew here are not only attentive, they provide a level of personal service I haven't seen on any other cruise line, luxury lines included. And no, guys, they are most definitely not paying me to say that. And it's not just about the personal approach, it's how flawlessly things are executed in every single area of the experience. Now, outside the yacht club, service is still consistent, but not necessarily as exceptional. The bars are fully staffed, dining moves at a reasonable pace, requests get handled without issue. Nothing has ever felt strained across any areas of the ship, but outside the yacht club, nothing necessarily felt particularly memorable either. Something to be aware of is that the overall atmosphere on MSC definitely skews more international than other cruise lines. You're going to hear multiple languages throughout the ship, including with your fellow passengers and definitely during announcements. There's families like us that are present, but it's not overwhelming, and the energy feels a lot more laid back on what you'd experience with other mainstream cruise lines. But what surprised me most is how well this mix works together. The ship holds nearly 7,000 passengers, but it's rarely felt chaotic outside of a few choke points like the big shows, which is the same you're going to find on literally any other cruise line. But other than that, the vibe has stayed calm from sunup to sundown. Overall, the crew gets the job done and the atmosphere is without a doubt enjoyable. Neither really redefines the experience, but both support it without getting in the way. By the end of the cruise, a few things became clear about how to get the most out of this ship. If you're planning to get the drink package or Wi-Fi, book them when you originally book your cruises. That's when they're the cheapest, often under $60 per day for both combined. You're also going to want to book entertainment as soon as you board the ship. Shows in the Panorama Lounge where I am now, or the Comedy Club and the main theater all sell out quickly. But if you do miss reservations, you can still line up for will call before the shows, as a lot of people will no-show, but you're going to be stuck with whatever seats happen to be left. There's a lot happening on this ship. It's not just the shows. And if you're not checking the daily planner, you're going to miss, honestly, most of it. Activities like bumper cars and roller skating in the Sportsplex were genuinely fun, but very easy to overlook if you're not paying attention to the schedule. And the cliffhanger swings are a must-do. They only take a couple minutes, but they definitely get the heart rate going as they swing you out over the edge of the ship, and they're absolutely worth doing. But you're going to want to go there as soon as they open or on a port day where there's no wait, or you can book a reservation through the app to avoid standing in line. And don't miss White Night. It's one of the highlights of the weekend. Make sure to bring your white outfits and join in, as it's one of those nights where the ship's energy absolutely delivers on what MSC is trying to create. Overall, the World America delivers a level of variety and energy that works for far more people than I expected. So whether you're traveling with kids, as we are, or as a couple, or somewhere in between, the ship gives you room to shape the experience at your pace. It's not perfect, but it's one I absolutely recommend with confidence. But here's the bad news. Finding a cruise that fits your budget is only the first step, because if you book the lowest price you see without understanding the timing, cabin strategy, or how cruise pricing actually works, it's very easy to overpay or lock yourself into compromises you really didn't need to make. The good news? You don't have to figure that out on your own, as that's exactly what I cover in my next video. So don't stop here, click that one next. In it, I break down how to save money on your next cruise without chasing sketchy deals, sacrificing the experience, or guessing your way through the booking process. These are simple strategies, real examples, and the mistakes that quietly cost people hundreds every time they book. I'll see you over there. If you're ready, I am. Let's go.